Austin can just start whipping right into this.
I just want to say that I have been super excited about this show all day, and I just want to say Austin and I have never met personally. We've become friends virtually and talked on the phone a lot and done a lot of things, and we're going to meet next week, and I'm excited about that. But Austin is an amazing leader. I don't know what you guys said before, because I'm sorry I missed that, but one of the reasons, and if you're a first-time listener to the show, this is not a show you can buy your way on and pay for. I handpick the guests of this show, and if somebody's on this show, it's somebody that I know from first-hand knowledge and first-hand experience that is not only a winner, but an absolute amazing person and well-rounded and balanced, because that's what we want in our life and in our business, are really good mentors and good leaders we can follow. And I wanted to do healthy habits, getting the new year started off right, because let's be honest, a lot of people don't really start their new year the first week or so. And I was just thinking Austin was gracious enough to do this, and he's got some exciting stuff going on. So I'm thrilled to introduce him to my loyal listeners and my first-time listeners in our audience. And Peter always does a great job filling in for me if I have a snafu like I did today. But Austin, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be on our show. And I know we're talking about healthy habits, and you got a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just going to ask you if you just kind of, what does Austin do to start his new year off right?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, Janine, I appreciate all the kind words, and I've just got to give it back to you. I mean, I've known you now for, it would be about 4 years, 4 or 5 years, and you've just been a ray of light in my life, and you've helped so many people that I'm aware of. I can't even wrap my mind around how many people you've helped with your knowledge and your loving heart that I'm not aware of. So if it was just the people I'm aware of, you'd still be a saint. But I appreciate the opportunity to have me on your show and speak to your audience. But as far as what I do myself, I was telling Peter, there's 3 areas whenever you said healthy habits that I thought would be good for us to touch base on. One is mental and emotional habits, and examples of that would be like self-talk, study, what you feed your mind, the stories you tell yourself about yourself and your reality, and physical habits, diet, exercise, things of that nature, and then business habits, because we all still need to make money. And, for me, for a long time, I thought I was chasing happiness, but I found that I was chasing peace and fulfillment. For a while, I was just chasing money because I was absolutely broke. I was like B-R-O-K, and the E was on layaway. I was so broke. And I was down here looking up at broke like, geez, I just wish I was broke. That'd be great. But I was deficient in funds. And so that's what I was chasing for a while. But, you get to a point where, you've got some money, you've got some success, you've got a nest egg, you've got a good circle of friends. And, for me, I found that a lot of people aren't necessarily chasing happiness or success. They're chasing peace, and they're chasing fulfillment. And so these 3 things, I think, these 3 areas of habits, I think will be something that will be good fundamentals. So as far as what I do, my habits start the night before but lead into my morning routine. And I think a lot of what I just talked about, mental, emotional, physical, business, all of that really starts with your morning routine. And for me, whenever I wake up, I have 2 bottles of water right by the bed, because I read somewhere, I think it's Andrew Huberman's podcast, he mentioned that you lose about a pound, which I don't know how much that is in fluid ounces, but 16, I guess, but you lose about a pound of water while you sleep. And so the first thing I do in the morning, as soon as I wake up, before I even get out of bed, is I hydrate, I get up, I stretch for about 10 minutes. That's very important, especially since I'm 40 now. And, stretching is very important, especially for me, because I find that, walking into the next room, I can be akin to a bowl of Rice Krispies, how I snap, crackle, and pop nowadays. And after I stretch for a little bit, I do just a little bit of physical exercise to get my heart rate up. And the reason why I do that isn't necessarily because of vanity or anything like that. It's because first thing in the morning, your cortisol levels, your stress hormone is highest. And so, I work out for a little while to get my heart rate up. That reduces cortisol levels because I have anxiety issues I have my entire life. And knowing that I have anxiety, I used to not even be able to say the word anxiety without having a full-blown anxiety attack. But now I've got it under control. So waking up first thing in the morning, hydrating, stretching, working out for just about 10 or 15 minutes real quick, that decreases my cortisol levels, so it gives my body a good fighting chance to not be stressed out and anxiety-ridden. And that also does a whole bunch of different things in your mind. It boosts BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factors, so it unleashes a whole pharmaceutical host of different, neurotransmitters and chemicals in your brain. So just taking 5 or 10 minutes even to do something that gets your heart rate up first thing in the morning when you wake up, it helps tremendously. And if you're like me, whenever I first started this, I had read Robin Sharma's book, I think it's called The 5 a.m. Club. And he talks about the power of a good morning routine. But if you're like me, whenever I first started this, working out for 5, 10, 15 minutes in the morning, it about made me sick, physically ill, because it wasn't a habit. And here we are talking about habits. And now when I wake up first thing in the morning, I don't have to think about it. I wake up, I hydrate, I go stretch, I go ahead and work out. And it's a real simple workout. After I'm stretching, my heart rate's already up a little bit. And so I do a few sets of push-ups, some crunches, some squats, and I'm done. That's all I do. And then I go ahead and, I have my supplement regimen. I'm very partial to a particular type of blue-green algae. I have a protein with some amino acids. And this just goes into, the diet portion of, diet and exercise, the physical portion, which we can talk a little bit more on here in just a little while. But, I make sure that the first thing in my body is not sugar. It's not even caffeine, because, once again, I'm a big fan of Andrew Huberman. And he's got some brilliant studies out of Stanford. And from what he's said, and I've heard other guests of his say, that you're not even supposed to have caffeine for the first 90 minutes or so. If you can wait, I know a lot of people love to wake up first thing and have coffee like I used to, and sometimes I still do. But if you can wait for about 90 minutes, that once again helps your body with decreasing cortisol levels and the stress hormone, and it doesn't put your body into a fight or flight response as quickly. So it is good to wait if you can. So I make sure that what I'm doing is also just as
Austin, how long did you say you should wait? I'm sorry, I missed how long.
Yeah, they say about 90 minutes, but for me, I think it's probably closer to about half that, 45 minutes or an hour before I have my coffee. And I just drink black coffee because I really try to limit my sugar intake. Just the more I learn about sugar, it's pure poison. And that's not even one of those things that's up for debate anymore. It's pretty common knowledge, I think. But so I just drink my sugar black. That was also something that I had to get used to. And it's just habits. It's
yeah. I want to ask you a question about something you said.
Sure.
That because to hear you talk about anxiety or anything, because your voice is quite soothing and you're calm, and I wouldn't have known that about you.
Well, thank you.
So and I've known you for a while, and I know you're like me. You like to have fun and take life seriously, and you love your family and all this stuff. So what I would like you to explain or share with our listeners, because I'm sure a lot of people are probably really relating to what you're saying here, especially with all the things going on in everybody's lives and the world. So the anxiety-ridden Austin, when you made a decision, I want to talk about the mindset decision when you decided, I have to deal with this, and you listened to Andrew Huberman or whatever you did. Was there a trigger for that, or what made you, I guess I'm trying to say, understand or realize that you could do something about it? You didn't have to suffer with this anxiety, and I'm assuming you chose not to medicate yourself with prescriptions. You went a different direction. What was the catalyst for that, for anybody that's listening and maybe wanting to really make that shift?
Well, it's just like if you're physically ill, right? We'll take, for example, for me, the anxiety, if you're mentally ill, which we shouldn't put so much stigma on, because if you're having a bad day and you're upset, you're mentally ill. And it's okay to be able to say that. For me, my anxiety issue was a mental illness. It was something I had to deal with because it was debilitating, absolutely. And so if you're physically ill, let's say that you're 150 pounds overweight, you're probably not going to sign up and run a marathon today, right? It's going to take some time for you to get to a healthy weight, for you to get to a place of physical health. And for me, it took me a while to get to a place of mental health. And I started as a teenager with being medicated, trying Zulauf, Celexa, Zyprexa, Paxil, all these different things that actually exacerbated the symptoms and zapped my personality and my energy and my creativity, made me a walking zombie. One of those I mentioned is an antipsychotic, and they gave me this because nothing else was working for my anxiety. And, I've tried lots of different things. And so it was a journey. It was I had to study and, figure out what are people doing naturally? What are some breathing techniques? If I'm having an anxiety attack, what can I do immediately to be able to nip that in the bud? And it was, since we're talking about habits, it was something I had to do habitually. It was daily work on dealing with my anxiety. And it's something I still deal with every day. I don't think that if you have anxiety issues, you ever fully get over it. I remember a few years ago, I was speaking in front of a group of a few thousand people at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, and I almost blacked out on stage. I mean, everything went black. I knew the content that I was going to be speaking on, and so no one ever knew that I was on stage, and everything went black, and I couldn't see, and I was, having a full-blown anxiety attack, but only for moments, probably about 1 minute to 2 minutes. And then whenever I got done with this speech, I went upstairs and, took my shirt off in the green room and laid down and allowed myself to calm down. My face was blood red. My eyes were blood red. This was just a few years ago. I think back in 2018. So I guess that I say a few years ago, 6 years ago. But so, yeah, Janine, it's your daily habits that are going to determine your level of growth, and it is something that I had to do inch by inch. Breathing techniques.
Hey, Austin?
Yes, sir.
Can I jump in 1 second, only because the stuff that you say certainly applies to big people, but it might also apply to kids. So you had said something a little bit earlier that you were started on this stuff as a kid, which usually means you didn't have really a lot of control of either saying yes or no. So I know this isn't part of this whole thing, but there's parents listening in, and I hate to say it, I'm somewhat biased. Every time I go see a doctor, they walk in with a pad for prescriptions and a pen, and they're clicking on it like they can't just wait to write me a prescription for something. So do you want to talk about that?
Write those prescriptions.
Exactly. So do you want to talk to that, maybe address that one thing for parents that might have their kids on this stuff and tell them about the impact that it had on you and all that sort of stuff, because this is an underlying issue, I'm sure, to a lot of the things relative to your other habits. Because if you're not feeling right, you don't want to do a lot of the other things you're talking about.
Yeah, well, you're right. I was sitting next to a doctor at the airport one time, and we got to talking about anxiety and Xanax and Valium and all this different stuff. And he told me that he got paid almost $5,000 for every Xanax prescription that he wrote. And so yeah, I mean, they're excited to write those prescriptions for sure. And no fault to them. That's what they've been trained to do. It's my personal belief that more times than not, and it's not just my belief, but it's been my experience for those that have let me coach them along some anxiety issues and some mental health issues and even some physical health issues, that most of the time pharmaceutical drugs are not needed. So for anxiety specifically, whenever I've been having anxiety issues in the past, I learned boxed breathing, right? Navy SEALs do this to slow their heart rate and calm themselves down. So you breathe in. Yep, it's a big one for me. So you breathe in for 4 or 5 seconds, on a 4 or 5 count. You hold it for about 4 seconds. You exhale for 4 seconds. And you hold that exhale for 4 seconds. And it does something to you neurologically and physiologically, but also it's taking your mind off of your anxiety because you're counting and you're putting your focus somewhere else. I'm also a professional hypnotist and hypnotherapist, which I don't know if Janine, if you knew that, but whenever you're able to direct your focus in a certain way, you can control your mind a lot more easily. So box breathing does help. There's certain things that you can do. And for example, Maxwell Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics, he mentions that if the muscles in and around your neck and your shoulders are completely relaxed, that you can't be stressed, that you can't be tense. And so if you can completely relax and put your focus on the muscles in and around your neck and your shoulders, and sometimes you got to shake those out, just to loosen them up. And if you can do that and be completely relaxed in the muscles in and around your neck and your shoulders, then that's going to help alleviate stress and tension. I used to have a really bad fear of flying, and whenever we would hit turbulence or whenever we would just be taken off, I would put all of my focus and attention on relaxing the muscles in and around my neck and my shoulders. Those are a couple things. And we actually mentioned inadvertently some things you can do to help with anxiety. So a lot of times when you're dehydrated, you have symptoms of anxiety. And so properly hydrating yourself, your diet, not drinking too much alcohol. If your children, if your children are drinking too much alcohol, that's another story. But if your children have, high sugar diets, if they're not sleeping well, that's another thing that can really trigger anxiety and different mental health issues as well as physical health issues. Sleep is very important, and you don't necessarily need 8 hours of sleep, but as long as you have 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep, studies have shown that when you're younger, you need a little bit more sleep. I know that when we get older, we feel like we need 10 hours of sleep, but we don't. We need roughly about 7 hours of sleep. But if you're getting quality sleep where after 90 minutes or so, you're able to dip into that REM sleep, right, and you're having some good 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, a good night's rest, and you've got your circadian rhythms, which is just all about habit, since we're talking about habit. Your circadian rhythms, is if you're going to sleep about, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and the ideal time for you to be asleep, studies have shown, once again, this is all science stuff, is from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. That's the perfect time where you want to make sure you're in a good deep sleep. And that, for me, it took habit. It took practice. I'm a chronic insomniac. I have been most of my life. And so that's something that without medication, more times than not, I try to get a good night's rest and make sure that I'm asleep by about 10 o'clock at night, and I sleep, I usually get up at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So, yes,
aren't you staying up past your bedtime for us tonight?
Tonight, yeah, I'll probably be up past my bedtime. I'm on the East Coast, so it's 9 o'clock right now. But yeah, so just making sure that you and your kids are properly hydrated, have you don't have too much sugar or caffeine in your diet. If you caffeine has a shelf life of about, I think, 5 or 6 hours, if I remember correctly. So you could have a cup of coffee, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's going to affect you until about 10 o'clock at night, and realistically even up to 8 hours. So, caffeine is going to be something that causes anxiety. So yeah, I could talk for a while about anxiety, stress, depression, mental health issues, but those are just a few things.
So I think that's very helpful information, because I know that a lot of people are resetting. We're in 2024, and healthy habits for me, healthy habits are what you're putting in your mind, what you're doing every day, and it's just such a good time because it's a clean slate. We're in the new year, and I know you and I have read a lot of the same books, and even though we didn't know each other until about 4 years ago, we were reading a lot of the same books, and we knew a lot of the same people, which is kind of interesting. And I did a show last year, and I talked about, I was all high on this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I think that if I talked about it, I promoted it on the show, but one of the greatest things for me that I got out of this book was make it easy, and like for me, I wanted to lift. I had bought some hand weights, but then I was always forgetting to do it. Well, why? Because I had them put away. So when I read this book, I got 2 of my little hand weights, dumbbells, and I put them on the corner of my desk, and I'm also impatient. That's an issue I'm always working on. And so when I'm scanning something and it's taking too long, I turned that into the time that I lift my dumbbells so I could build strength. And it just changes, make it obvious. That's what he says, make it obvious. So I'll put things out so I make sure I do those habits and things. And you've given us extremely valuable information. And Peter, I do want to also say, based on your comment, my grandson is super smart. I may add, that may be biased, but he's very smart. And ever since he was in kindergarten, he's very active. The school was always trying to get him on Ritalin. And my daughter was against it, and she called me, and I was living in Texas, and they were calling these IEP meetings, and they wanted to put him on Ritalin, and she didn't want it. And they were, I'm going to say, almost bullying her into trying to get her to do it. And I flew out there. And so it's a matter of, and I'm not judging anybody. If you've got your kids on Ritalin, my daughter did the research, and I did the research, and we just believed there was a better way, and we didn't want to get this going with pharmaceuticals as a way of problem solving. And so I flew out there to help back my daughter up because she needed an advocate because she was being outnumbered by some of the teachers on the school. And Austin, what you talked about, and Peter, it's great that you brought that up. My daughter she changed his diet. She implemented breathing. We talked about things he could do. He could go for a run, and he was a little kid, but we had to learn ways to deal with it. Otherwise, we were going to get pushed around, and they can't make you get on it, but they can sure pressure you into it. So if you're not for that, it's a beautiful thing to teach your kids these coping mechanisms when they're young, so they can breathe. And my daughter was here this weekend, and I was the one that was like freaking out because I was moving and a lot of things and were going on for me. And I heard my daughter telling her 12-year-old daughter, she was getting all upset, and she said, breathe, just breathe, calm down, breathe. And I thought, man, that's just such a great thing to teach kids. at this age. And this is super valuable information, Austin, and I appreciate you sharing your personal story because it helps a lot of people. And
no, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, a couple more things that I just thought of while you were talking is, you know, for me, having this background and knowing how the subconscious mind works and really doing some deep dives into just making the most of this nervous system that I've been blessed with. I've helped my kids because my daughter suffered from anxiety pretty badly there for some years. And she also had trouble with focus and attention and that sort of thing. So what I helped her with, and I've helped a few people with, in fact, is, you know, I've asked them, you know, first sit down, relax, close your eyes, and I do a visualization exercise with them. You know, and I ask, you know, where and when is it that you felt the safest and most comfortable in your life? Where is that place? When is it? You know, and I want you to visualize that, and then I ask them, what does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? I try to get them fully absorbed in that. And I really help them to build a really, really solid visualization of that place with their eyes closed, where, you know, they know what it looks like, feels like, smells like, to the point where they are there. I get them to describe it as vividly as possible. They build this place, this safe place in their mind, and then I really help them hone in on the feeling of being safe, of being relaxed, of being comforted, and in every way I possibly can, how that feels physically, how that, you know, feels emotionally, everything. And I let them know that that's a place they can go mentally whenever they need to. So for some people, they just can't get into meditation. There's really easy ways to get into mindfulness, which is kind of a form of meditation. But, you know, I helped my daughter, and I've helped lots of other people build this safe place inside their mind where when they need to and they're having stress or anxiety or anything like that, they can close their eyes, they can take a deep breath and relax and go to that place for just a little while. And that has been something that's proven to really be helpful. And I'll tell you something else. You've probably heard the benefits of cold showers. Try getting a kid to take a cold shower. It's not happening. And you wouldn't want to. It's almost torture. It's torture for you to do it to yourself.
Yeah, right.
You know, I take cold showers several times a week, not every single day, but several times a week. And it's something that for me has been a habit. It's been a discipline thing. But cold showers have so many benefits. They prevent leaky brain syndrome. You know, they help boost dopamine and serotonin levels in your brain. They help with inflammation. I mean, there's tons. Ice baths, whichever you're going to do, that extreme exposure, it helps you in so many ways. But it also helps you to be able to make you do tough stuff, which is, if you're going to be a high performer, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be a good parent, a good, a functional adult, you need to be able to do tough stuff. And so for me, I've noticed, and a lot of other people I've talked with and advised have noticed, that whenever you take these cold showers, ice cold for just the first few minutes even, or the first couple of minutes, if you are able to make yourself do that whenever, then it helps you to be able to master your emotions, master your body and mind, and push yourself to do tough stuff. Now, you can't have your children do that all the time necessarily, or ever, you know, but you can push your kids to do some things that are tough. As a parent, it's my job to set up obstacles for them to overcome so they can grow that muscle of being able to overcome tough things and challenges and that sort of thing. And I'll give you a quick example. My son has been hospitalized for asthma multiple times while he was young. He's got really bad asthma and allergies. And, a lot of this has to do with poor gut health, I learned. And so, having him take probiotics and prebiotics, that does tend to help. But what I did is I decided to get him into sports. I decided, hey, let's go for a walk and talk. And it progressed to us, let's go for a jog, let's throw the ball. And it ended up progressing to he joined track and field, and someone who's been hospitalized multiple times for not being able to breathe, he joined track and field. Now he plays football, but he didn't start off there. And that's what I want to encourage everyone that's listening to. If you're struggling, if you're overweight, if you're broke, or whatever the case may be, you didn't get there overnight. You got to step by step. Well, I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Begins with a single step. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. So just take it inch by inch, one step at a time. One habit at a time.
That's great advice. And we have a little more time because Peter gave us a little extension for tonight. Peter, are the people that called in going to be knocked off?
No, we're good for 45 minutes.
Okay,
so we're
great.
doing just fine.
Thank you so much. So, Austin, I know you're going to be in Dallas next week, and so am I, and we're going to get together. And I know you are in the middle of a new project where you're promoting some great products, and I'm excited about it because many people know I've been a spirulina eater, a fan of this spirulina, and it's an amazing habit for me for most of my life and all my kids. As a matter of fact, when I got to California last week, one of my older sons called me and he was telling me that he hadn't been feeling good and he had kept getting sick. And I said, well, you know what you need to do? And then he said, I was going to talk about mindset. And he goes, eat more spirulina. And I said, well, yes, there's always that. And that's just something my kids know because it gives me energy and stamina. Would you like to share with our listeners what you have going on in Dallas next week? Because I'm excited about that.
I could talk for 45 minutes about that very easily. So, but I'll take just a few minutes. So I am really big on habits. And one of the things that I put in my body first thing in the morning is this particular type of blue-green algae. And there's lots of different types. And the challenge with blue-green algae is where it grows, it typically soaks up heavy metals, toxins, impurities, pesticides, all this different stuff. And, whenever you consume that, when you buy it in Whole Foods and all this different stuff, you consume the bad stuff as well. It is incredibly nutrient dense, and has vitamins, minerals, amino acids, all this different stuff. But, consuming that bad stuff, it's just not good for you. And so I found a company a few years back that they've got this patented technology called photobioreactor technology where they grow their own strain of spirulina. And it's the most nutrient-dense and heaviest biomass having spirulina in the world with the highest phycocyanin concentration in the world. And I could get into a million reasons why phycocyanin concentration matters, but just know that it does. And, it's completely free of any toxins, impurities, or anything like that. So the way that it makes me feel, especially over time, and just knowing what it's doing in my body, gives me confidence to push myself harder in the gym and working out and playing with my kids, et cetera, et cetera. So, that absorbs, just like it does in the ponds and stuff like that, absorbing all the bad stuff. When you put something that pure in your body, it still absorbs all the bad stuff, or not all of it, but it absorbs those heavy metals and some different stuff that you don't want in your body. So it removes some of the bad, but all the good that it puts in your body is just incredible. All the vitamins and minerals and amino acids and stuff that you really want in your body that you wouldn't get otherwise. You just wouldn't. No matter how clean you eat, I eat really well, but you just can't do that, because of over farming and, soil depletion and everything. You just can't eat enough to be able to get all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And if you're going to go to the trouble of working out, stretching, being in the gym, doing all the stuff we've talked about today and all the stuff that, we know we should do, you at least want to give your body a chance with the food and the things you're putting in it, because there's a quote that I heard a while back that I had to laugh at, because I was still sneaking the occasional Chips Ahoy and eating chocolate all the time and cupcakes. And it was my dad that told me. In fact, he's in his mid-60s and he's a professional bodybuilder to this day. He said, you can't outrun a bad diet, because I used to love to run all the time. And he said, you can't outrun a bad diet. And as much as I love snickerdoodles and cupcakes, and I love waking up and feeling good and thinking clearly and being able to keep up with my kids. I'm 40 years old with a six-pack, and I'm cut. I can run circles around these 20-year-old kids nowadays. I feel great about who I am. I'm able to have the stamina that I need, the mental sharpness that I need to be able to dominate my day. And I couldn't do that if I was drunk all the time, or, even drinking to the point where I was sluggish the next day. I couldn't do that if I wasn't disciplined in my sleep schedule. I couldn't do that if I was eating poorly and fast food all the time. And I also couldn't do that, Janine and Peter, if I wasn't conscious of the things that I was putting in my head as well as my body, doing that personal development every day and taking notes and implementing what I learned. That's a habit I've had since I was about 13, and there's lots of things that I could say, and I'll end my must say part on this, because I must say this. In business, we said in the beginning that in 2018 I retired, a multiple seven-figure earner, and et cetera, which I'm obviously, that didn't last long, but the retirement part. But you don't start off that way. You start off by doing a little something each day. And if you're taking notes, write this down, is I can have a low production day, but I won't have a no production day. For me, as long as I'm doing a little something every day, I feel good about myself, and I'm making progress. And, I always say inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life's hard. Keep studying, practicing, and getting better at your craft each day,